Hello everyone, thank you for being all here today. Just before we kickstart the series of roundtables, we'll start with a few information. So now 3 roundtables of 20 minutes each from 3 p.m. till I think 4:15-ish. After we'll have the 4 sessions of pitching sessions. So over here we'll have the sustainable companies, so 15 companies actually. Over there will be the digital vertical, with 13 companies. We'll have here the industry vertical with 7 companies, and here the health tech companies with 15 companies. So basically all pitching sessions will happen simultaneously, and afterwards, like something like 4:45, something like this, nearly 5 p.m., we will start the series of one-to-one meetings that you all investors, corporates, and attendees, of course, have booked with the companies. So without further ado, we'll kickstart this series of roundtables. The first one being from lab to startup, the formula for success, shedding a particular light on researchers and PhD profiles. So let's welcome Celine Debled, startup manager at Agoranov, et Maxence Jamet, senior associate at Entrepreneur First. Thank you, Celine, Maxence, for being here today and taking the time to sharing your insights with the public. First, could you just present yourselves and describe the methodology used in both of your programs?
Maybe you want to start?
I can start. Thanks, Marc. Thanks for having us. So I'm Maxence. I'm working for a company called Entrepreneur First. We're a talent investor. Our goal is basically to bring the most exceptional people for a 3-month program in Paris, where we help them to find a co-founder, find an idea, and then get funded by the best VCs. So the methodology we use is a methodology called the EDGE methodology. We're trying to basically identify the expertise of the best people out there and try to help them capitalize on that expertise to build a company. We're working with a lot of PhDs. Of course, they have a very technical expertise. So we're trying to push them to apply the expertise to real-world problems.
Thank you, Maxence. You, Celine?
So after Entrepreneur First, often the projects carry on and launch their startups. Then at Agoranov, a Deeptech incubator based in Paris, we are here to coach the co-founders. Our methodology is about personalized and individual coaching for each entrepreneur. On my side, so I coach about 20 startups in the digital sector. And then we also have a collective acceleration program with workshops, events to help them on all the problematics at the early stage.
Thank you, Celine. And just very rapidly, so that all can understand how Agoranov and Entrepreneur First are very different. Entrepreneur First is actually not an incubator nor an accelerator. Just to better understand, do you have an example of a company that has been in both your programs and to help them understand how you differentiate yourself?
I think we have lots of startups in common. I think 23, right?
25.
25. One example is a company called Everdye. They are basically building a new process to dye textile. And so basically we met the 2 founders separately at EF. The CTO is called Amira. She has a PhD in chemistry from Tunisia. And Ilan used to work at Agoranov as a full-time employee and came to EF. They both came to EF without idea, without co-founder. And so we basically made them meet, ideate on a new way to basically dye textile. Amira has a very technical edge on how to basically have a greener process to dye textile. Ilan has a sort of network in that field and a really strong behavior to make things happen. They matched together. They try to, transform this industry, and they raised money after leaving EF, and then they joined Agoranov.
At EF, they had the first prototype they made in Amira's flat, and then at Agoranov, they made the first product, and we coached them to industrialization.
Many thanks, both of you. Well, if I understand correctly, actually the EDGE's philosophy of Entrepreneur First heavily relies, on PhD researchers. Actually, we could say basically Agoranov just as much do the same, since actually Agoranov takes on the future of some of entrepreneurs' company. How many actually PhD of those profiles have you seen pass in your ranks since 5 years ago, or even the creation of entrepreneurs 15 years ago almost.
Yeah, so EF was built in 2011, so it's been a while. In France, we basically started the operation in 2018. And so we started the first batch with 10% of PhDs. So a batch is roughly 50 people. And now last year we're 30%. So massive uplifts in PhDs.
And at Agornov, we've been created 20 years ago by the Ministry of Research. So it's our goal to support researchers or PhDs to launch their startups. And for the last 4 years, we have about 50% of our startups that has at least one PhD in the co-founders team.
Many thanks. Well, as Paul-François Fournier rightfully said so earlier today, 5 years ago was launched the Deeptech plan. Would you say it has had an impact on both of your programs, actually on those PhD profiles?
Yeah, I think we're seeing more and more PhDs willing to build companies after finishing their research or their postdoc. I think there's many explanations to this. Of course, the environment is getting more mature in France. I think we are seeing also more and more role models that are showing the way for future PhDs. When you look at companies like Mistral AI, like all the co-founding team, I think, is made of PhDs. It's not from EF, by the way. I would love to. And yeah, we are also relaying a lot of word of mouth. When a PhD is quite successful and willing to build a company, they will basically tell their peers within the lab that they found a great program to help them build a company. So that could explain as well why we have more and more PhDs at EF.
And you, Celine, what could you say?
The Deeptech plan democratized the subject, and it's a lot because we see that our entrepreneurs get more coaching, get more non-dilutive financing at the early stage. So it reassures private investors to raise funds then.
Great to understand and great to know. Actually, would you have identified as well some sort of a spark in their minds to help them take the leap of entrepreneurship?
Definitely. We see way more, I think, in terms of applications. So we receive roughly 1,000 applications for each batch that we're organizing every 6 months. We started with less than 100 PhDs applying to the program. Now it's roughly 300, so it's 3x the number of PhDs applying to the program. So yeah, definitely a spark. And what we are trying to do is to help them become entrepreneurs within the program and change their mindset. But I think we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah, definitely. And you, Celine, at Agornov?
Yeah, for what we see, the PhD profiles are passionate by the technology they learn during their thesis, and they want to apply it to an impactful project, and that's why they want to become entrepreneurs, and they are striving for finding a business profile to support the team.
Thanks. And well, to talk about somewhat related, topic, how do you help them find the best, co-founders? Here at BPI France, we've launched the Tandem service to help them find the co-founders. I'm sure it's quite different at entrepreneurs to relying on, the edge philosophy. But I think also sometimes at Agornov, teams split up, so you help them, bounce back and find their co-founders. How, both of you, can you explain the association you make in your programs?
Yeah, I think I will take an example. So Amira's example, so the co-founder of Everday. So she came to EF without any idea, without co-founder. She explored for a couple of weeks, within the batch, who could be a potential fit for her. And after 3 weeks, she came to me saying, "Hey, I will leave EF. I didn't manage to find anyone in the batch. Thanks a lot for the support." And I was like, "No, I mean, you have a great expertise. I'm pretty sure you can explore more and find a great fit for you." And so it's just about giving people the confidence that they will find someone. And making sure they did the sort of introspection on what's their expertise and what do they need as a sort of complementary skills to basically make the most out of their PhD. So yeah, we kept pushing, and yeah, she met with Ilan and now building a great company.
Yeah, for what we see, it's often by networking that they found the other co-founder. So we help them meet people, be in the good networks to meet the next co-founder. And also maybe to precise it for PhD profiles, we see two cases. Either they switch to be the CEO and to sell the product, or they prefer to be to become the CTO or the CSO. And all that question, it's really about coaching each entrepreneur with a human coaching and understand specifically what are their talents and what they want to build.
Interesting. And bouncing on that, building on this information, I've heard a company called In Vitro. Actually, these are two PhD profiles. How did you help them find the best, edge? How could they use actually their, respective experience actually to associate, the CTO aspect of the job, while, also, working on the CEO aspect? How did you help them find this, association?
Yeah, I think for some PhD profiles, I think they have the sort of fiber to be CEO, and we just try to amplify this and give them the confidence that they could be great CEOs. So in the case of Alexandra from In Vitro, so she's now the sole founder, so she's the only founder in the team, and so since she has a great technical background, she can handle both part of the business sort of, and so the way we do it technically in the program is just by giving sort of knowledge and giving access to experts that will basically uplift technical profiles to become CEOs.
And when you have a business profile coming and trying to understand the technology, often it's a good opportunity to learn how to vulgarize the technology, and EF is doing a great job so that the tech profile tries to explain what he knows, and the business profile is more focused on finding pain points, whereas there could be a business. Maybe you have more to say about that, about your methodology to find the business.
Yeah, I think the most common pitfall like PhDs are falling into at the beginning of the program is that they're thinking about solutions directly. So what we're trying to do is to push them to think problems first, and really try to apply the EF methodology about starting from your expertise, try to have beliefs about the future, and talk to customers about potential pain points. But yeah, the most common failure is just to go for the best solution technically.
Right. And something that popped to mind basically is that you said from In Vitro, the sole founder now, due to her background, actually understood both the technical and the business aspect of the jobs. Well, today we also have companies with the actually two profiles, CTO and CEO, very much distinct. How can you help them actually understand the stakes that are in their business, in the job, in the market, to help the company scale? For instance, let's take a company like Neoplants. We know that the CEO is actually very much of a business-like profile, coming out of consulting or something like this. And how could you help him understand such technical and complex stakes of the company? Also, Atakanov, if you have examples, that would be great as well.
I think it all comes down to the selection process that we're doing. What we're looking for in CEOs is an ability to upskill themselves extremely quickly. And in the best founders I've been working with, they are able to understand the tech extremely rapidly. Another example I have in mind, I think it's in the event as well. Genomines, I think the CEO has almost very little experience in mining, and now is a quite solid expert in that field. So yeah, it's just about behaviors and personalities, and we're trying to find the best CEOs on this aspect.
And for deep tech startups, we often see maybe business CEOs, but that has initially a technical background, for example, for Mobile Life, or lots of startups have a CEO who also has a PhD, but then had a business career.
What actually motivates those PhDs to become CEOs instead of keeping building on their expertise, on their experience to develop another product, to develop maybe a better product? How did they humbly understand that CEO might be better suited for us than the CTO aspect?
I would say it's really case-by-case basis. The kind of pattern I've seen at EF is when the CTO is really keen on building the product, and the CTO, even though he has a PhD, wants to just sell and talk to customers. And so the split is really case-by-case basis, and they just have a discussion on how they want to split the roles. Yeah, that's what I've seen at EF.
maybe two other examples like WeLink or Encoding. These are PhD students that start the startup thanks to the good results of the thesis, and as they were the first person to motivate the project to build it, they have been responsible to find the first investors, to speak to the first clients, and they learn how to do that. And if they like that, they want to carry on the CEO side because it's the project of their thesis, it's the project of their life.
Thanks. And talking about something we talked actually earlier. Well, basically, sorry. Basically, Agronov and Entrepreneur First are very much distinct in the context that basically Entrepreneur First are at the very birth of these companies, while Agronov sometimes actually takes the lead and the future of these companies. How actually do you, do the passation, actually the follow-on from one company to another, and how do you, I'd say, help them understand ideation stages, stakes actually, and more later, stages, more later stakes, such as, industrialization, commercialization. How do you both use, actually, both of your edges to help the company scale?
So on the how we communicate between our two programs, it's pretty simple. So during the EF program, they basically organize an introduction to Agranov. This is how they heard about the program and just apply after that.
And maybe about the concrete, it's also, for example, the Concile, they started at EF and they found their first clients, and when they had the beginning of product market fit and they want to raise funds, we are here to help them for the next steps and to move on and scale.
Fantastic. Maybe last but not least, I heard plans basically coming out of EF. I don't know if they come actually in Agronov, but coming out of EF, they actually decided to start selling in the US before actually selling in France. How this actually raises somewhat of an issue of sovereignty. How do you help them find the proper markets, whether it's UK, EU, France actually, to help those talents stay where actually they come from? And help them understand that sovereignty is not sometimes a territorial issue.
Yeah, so for those who are not familiar with Neoplants, it's a company basically building bioengineered plants to purify hair. And basically, so they met during the program. And I think to your question, there is a couple of things to distinguish. I think there's, ideation. So where do you want to ideate? So at EF, we push them to ideate in the market where they have the fastest access to, mostly Europe for most of the people we select. Then there is fundraising, and for this, we basically push them to be as ambitious as possible. And I think going in the US is potentially the most ambitious version of their fundraising plan. So that's also why we have now an office in San Francisco. And then there's operations. Where do we want to operate the business? And for this, it's really case-by-case basis. In the case of Neoplants, I think there's a question of regulation that makes the US more easy to operate in. But most of the technical team is based in France, because I think in France we have amazing talents. So that's easier for them to hire great people.
For me, about the sovereignty issue, it's not about selling in the foreign country. It's about where is your IP, where is your team, where is the research. And if there is this brain drain, sure, there is maybe a problem, or entrepreneurs has to be careful about that, especially because the super European ecosystem is for European startups, and BP France funding, EIC funding is for Europe startups. So we try to wear awareness about the subject, but it's true that if the market is in the US, and we have lots of health startups that need to start in the US because the access to the market is faster, we would encourage them to go in the right market. It's just about where is the team and the IP.
Thank you. And maybe one last question before I hand over to my colleague Marie. Basically, how do you rely, actually, the French ecosystem BPI front, funding disposals such as, IPHD, iLab as well. How do you rely on those, ecosystems such as well the, law firms for the IP to help a company in its development and its growth?
So BPI France is helping a lot EF companies, mostly through grants and the Bourse French Tech, for instance. So the way we work together with BPI is, again, we have a partnership with them. They come to present all the sort of support they can provide to founders throughout their journey, and afterwards we just let them run the relationship with the founders.
We have a wonderful ecosystem, so we try to connect them to all the events, the initiative made by BPI, and Europe's Deeptech Meetup is one of this great initiative, and we promoted we promoted it to our startup to apply.
Thank you, Celine. I think I could not have, found a better, way to wrap up this session. Once again, many thanks to both Maxence and you, Celine, for accepting, to share your insights, your valuable insights to the crowd here. Many thanks once again.